Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia here, and welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup 2020 Week 20 results. So, it has been an actual crazy week in the Overwatch League with all these results. There have been some, should we say, wayward results? There have been some really close matches. Some matches have been a lot closer than we expected. Some teams have really turned up, some teams haven't. And yeah, I mean, some of the DPS play on show this week has been some of the best DPS play, if not the best DPS play we've seen all season. Like, we have seen certain DPS players just completely turn losing situations on their heads with 3, 4, 5, sometimes. Have we seen a 6k this weekend? I wouldn't be surprised if we've had, I can't quite remember. But let's get into these fixtures because we do have 13 to go through. So, starting off on the Saturday, we saw the Seoul Dynasty taking on the Hangzhou Charge. This is an interesting one because we hadn't seen Hangzhou Charge yet. Seoul Dynasty got pummeled last week, shall we say. And yeah, this was a close match. Hangzhou Charge took a 2-0 lead over the Seoul Dynasty. Then Seoul Dynasty fought back in some close matches on Blizzard World and Volskaya, but it ended up going 3-2 to the Hangzhou Charge. So this, again, is Seoul Dynasty, like, not living up to the expectations. Remember, this is the same Seoul Dynasty side that beat the Hangzhou Charge 3-2 in the main melee. So, it's still disappointing from Seoul. I don't think we can really deny that. They're now 0-2. And Seoul, where's your form gone? This is a meta that should favour you. This really is a meta that should favour you. You can play the double barrier. You can play the Mei if you want to. You can, I mean, we were seeing a lot of Tracer Ash, but you've got very competent players on those roles as well. So, I don't know what is going on at the Seoul Dynasty, but they are not getting the regular season results. And if things continue on as they are, they're definitely not going to reach playoffs, but they might struggle for play-ins as well. So, this is really, really confusing. And when we go into August, I'm expecting to see matchups like London Spitfire versus Seoul and, you know, matches we haven't really seen yet, Hangzhou versus Seoul as well. So, if Seoul can't clear this up, then I worry for this team. Because it's all very well doing well in the playoffs and in the May Melees and the summer whatever it is, summer showdown. But if you do rubbish in the regular season, you're not going to get the wins on the board that you need. And you're going to make things a lot more difficult, if not impossible, for yourselves. So, this is disappointing from Seoul. But moving on, we had London Spitfire versus Chengdu Hunters after that. This was comprehensively London Spitfire. 3-0 for them, and Chengdu, especially on the last map, they were mentally boomed. London were having an absolute field day. Glister and Babel is what we've seen a lot from London Spitfire this week, with Glister on the Tracer and Babel on the Widowmaker or the Ash. And Babel this week has been a revelation. He plays a very different style of Widowmaker, but a style of Widowmaker that works. Glister's been really good. The DPS line for London Spitfire has been phenomenal this week. It really, really has. So there are some promising signs from London Spitfire this week, both in this game and the next game as well. So that's been really impressive. Chengdu, yeah, this wasn't a great look from Chengdu in this match, and certainly on Blizzard World, which was the last map, it fell apart. It really, really did fall apart. You could see that they were completely out of it mentally. They knew they were defeated, which was not a great look, shall we say. But the last match in APAC for the Saturday was the Hangzhou Spark taking on the New York Excelsior. Now, New York, obviously, New York. You know, they brought in Haxel. They're more aggressive now with Hopper since the start of the season. It's been really interesting. We actually saw a bit of Mandu, I think, as well. But Hangzhou Spark, they brought in Padron as a coach now. They brought in Architect, who was straight into the lineup. They brought in QOQ, who was straight into the lineup. QOQ was originally part of Runaway, actually. The Runaway that won Korean Contenders last year, but the Runaway after the Bumper and Janu era, if you see what I mean. The Runaway 2.0, if you want to put it that way. But he was actually at T1 before he joined Hangzhou Spark. He's a really good off-tank, and he demonstrated that in this match. But Hangzhou Spark look much better than they have done previously this season. They got a 3-2 victory over the New York Excelsior, and it's actually a fantastic match. And we have got some really, really good matches to watch this weekend if you're going to go back and watch any. But this is one of the picks because this was a phenomenal match. It was really, really good. Architect looked brilliant. Godspeed looked brilliant. Sabiobi, I think we saw at times. Haxel, obviously. Mano's had an up and down weekend, I'm not going to lie. But QOQ, Gujue, we've seen a lot of great looks from Hangzhou Spark as well. And they brought in Mika as well, which was really nice to see. And it's nice to see some of those other players getting a chance now. And QOQ, great first display on the Spark roster. Again, same can go for Architect as well. He's been really good since coming into the Spark, and they get a well-deserved victory over the New York Excelsior. I can't put it any other way. It wasn't a lucky victory, it was a well-deserved victory. And well done to Hangzhou. But we move over to NA now, and in NA, on the Saturday, we started off with a San Francisco Shock taking on the Paris Eternal. And this was an interesting match because we get to see, for the first time, Sparkle and XE together after XE returns from his lengthy medical injury, shall we say. And obviously Sparkle, he had a good week last week, but he had a good week on certain heroes, I think is what we can say. And it showed here. This is a 3-0 for the San Francisco Shock. And this firmly shows that the Paris Eternal are not part of the top teams in this league right now. San Francisco Shock here were firmly the better team, and you could see that. XE, he looked good on his return, but it was him that looked good. Sparkle didn't really have an impact on the match, and that is disappointing for a player that we thought was so good. Now it might take him time to settle into the league, so I'm not gonna berate him this soon, but very good win for the Shock. Very good win for the Shock, and yeah, it's been a good week for the team from San Francisco. But moving on to the Atlanta Reign taking on the Toronto Defiant. Now, I have my suspicions that this might be a little bit closer than expected because Toronto Defiant had looked better with Numlocked in the lineup, but I was wrong. This is a 3-0 for the Atlanta Reign. This is exactly what the Reign needed after getting nasty losses to the Gladiators 3-1 recently. And Toronto Defiant, their tank line was outdone. It really was. I mean, Unlocked didn't look himself at all. And I still have a lot of question marks over Zik, the new DPS signing. I don't think he's a stellar signing at all, to be quite honest. We're not seeing agilities anymore. Shawfall obviously is Shawfall, he's good. And Kariva's good and people like that, but I think the two names that stood out to me against this Atlanta Reign was Numlocked and Zik. Just that they didn't look like they were up to scratch. Atlanta Reign, they're good for that win. They really are good for that win. They looked much the better team. But then we start moving into the Sunday, and this is where things start to get real weird. Los Angeles Gladiators taking on the Houston Outlaws. Now, this is an interesting one because Gladiators, there's no consistency in that team. No consistency in that team whatsoever. And they just brought in Kevster. We did see Kevster alongside Birdwing. And it was okay. But I'm not sure that it's completely settled yet. And it ends up in a 3-1 for the Houston Outlaws. And I'm telling you now, Dante was phenomenal. We have seen some incredible Tracer players this weekend. I mean incredible Tracer players this weekend. And some of the plays we've seen from Dante, Shax a little bit later on, Glister, we've seen a ton of fantastic Tracer players. And yeah, I mean, Houston Outlaws are good for that win. And it is very interesting that the Houston Outlaws didn't get out-tanked. Hydration held his ground well, and that was very impressive. This is a great win for the Houston Outlaws, and it brings them up to that mid-table fight. And it could be a little bit of a turning point for the Houston Outlaws, this. But now we flip over to the other side of Texas, the Dallas Fuel taking on the Vancouver Titans. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I think we were all astonished when we looked at the Dallas Fuel roster and saw that Decay was not there. I think a lot of people expected to see Decay and Onigod together. We saw Onigod and Doha, and we did not see Decay at all. Aero said that he was taking a little bit of a break. He needed a rest. And this cost the Fuel. The Fuel lose 3-0 to the Vancouver Titans. I don't think anyone would have predicted that. Vancouver, they were just the better team. Dallas Fuel looked lost. The start of the match was very Papega. It was very all over the place. But yeah, Fuel looked lost without Decay. And that is extremely worrying. Extremely worrying. A team cannot rely on one player. It just can't. And so if this Dallas Fuel roster really does fall apart with Decay, without Decay in the lineup, there needs to be serious changes. This is not good. And unfortunately, it comes back to the thing that I said, and I have said for a lot of the season, and I was saying it previous seasons as well. And I'd finally thought we got past this Dallas Fuel, but we can't trust the Fuel. We can't trust the Fuel to get results that they should be getting. They should not be losing 3-0 to the Vancouver Titans. They should not be losing to the Vancouver Titans. This Dallas Fuel squad is good enough to beat this Titans squad fairly comprehensively. But on the flip side, Vancouver, massive win. Massive win. This is the first win for Vancouver Titans under their new roster, and this might just give them a little bit of a platform to push forward. And I kind of hope it does, because I think a lot of the teams lower down in the league are improving, apart from one. And yeah, this is a great win for Vancouver Titans. Great win for Vancouver Titans, and wholly unexpected from a lot of people. But moving back to APAC on the Sunday, and we saw Guangzhou Charge taking on Hangzhou Spark. So this is super interesting, because Guangzhou Charge, they beat the Seoul Dynasty right, but Hangzhou Spark are arguably a better team than Seoul Dynasty right now. And Hangzhou Spark were coming off the win against New York Excelsior. And whether that took a toll on this Hangzhou Spark squad, I'm not sure. But Guangzhou Charge do get a 3-2 win over the Hangzhou Spark. And, interestingly enough, that plants them at near the top of the APAC standings once again, which we saw them at last month in the May Melee. So, a lot of people still don't believe in this Charge squad, but they're getting the results. I don't think anyone can deny that right now, that this Charge squad is getting results. So, this is another great win for the Guangzhou Charge, especially from Hangzhou Spark just beating the New York Excelsior. Whether it is a bit of lag, should we say, coming for the New York Excelsior match for the Hangzhou Spark, which they played phenomenally well in, I don't know. But this was a reverse sweep. Hangzhou Spark went up 2-0 and then Guangzhou Charge brought it back. So Guangzhou Charge, they're showing great mental fortitude as well. I'm very impressed with this Charge squad. But after that, we saw the Chengdu Hunters taking on the Shanghai Dragons, and things continue to go weird. Chengdu Hunters were 2-0 up at halftime in this one. But Shanghai Dragons, again, get a reverse sweep and get the 3-2 win. Shanghai Dragons this was a very weird look from Shanghai. Li Zhegong was meant to be injured, but in the third map, the fourth map, he magically appeared, and like, baby, I'm back. He's on the Lucio, and he just comes in and plays really well. They were swapping a lot of their DPS plays. We saw Giguri on the first map play the Wrecking Ball. It was a weird looking Shanghai, and the first two maps were very worrying from a Shanghai perspective. Chengdu were the better team. Chengdu were the better team, and this was the Chengdu that just got absolutely obliterated by the Spitfire. Like, it was an obliteration in the end, that Spitfire Chengdu match. So this was really weird. I don't know whether Chengdu perhaps prepared a lot for Shanghai and not for Spitfire. If they did, that is incredibly stupid. But yeah, I mean, Shanghai get the win in the end though. So they're up there with the Guangzhou Chargers. Guangzhou Chargers, Shanghai at the top of the standings in the APAC region right now, I believe. But our last APAC match was New York Excelsior taking on the London Spitfire. Now, the London Spitfire are obviously not the team they used to be. And this used to be a fire match, right? Between the old Spitfire and the New York Excelsior. These days, not so much. But when we saw the London Spitfire take on the New York Excelsior, at the New York Excelsior homestand, way back when, I believe week 1, I can't remember which one, London gave them a good game. And this was when London had really just been formed in terms of that new team. So I was wondering how this would turn out. And with London's display against Chengdu, it was an interesting one. London gave this a real good go. And it's 3-1 for the New York Excelsior. But a lot of these maps were fine margins. This could have been a 3-0 for the Excelsior. It could have been a 3-2 for the Excelsior. It could have been a 3-1 for the Spitfire. It honestly, there were maps where they were close. They were really close. And again, Spitfire's DPS of Glister and Babel were phenomenal. In the end, the Spitfire do lose the tank battle, which very often we see the Spitfire lose the tank battle, normally the main tank battle. Bernard was really good again for the Spitfire this week. So there is promise for this Spitfire squad. They keep saying it, but there is promise for this Spitfire squad. Next week, they take on the Hangzhou Spark. So it's not an easy run, but I want to see this Spitfire squad go up against a Charge. I want to see them go up against a Dynasty. We haven't seen it yet. And I want to see them get tested by teams they haven't played yet. And I might do a video on this at some point, but I think London are the team that's probably got screwed the most through this like divisional divide between NA and APAC. If London were in NA, I think we would see a different story. I'd love to see London go up against the likes of Boston, Justice, Houston, Dallas, because I think London can beat those sorts of teams. Honestly, if they play like they have this weekend, I think they can beat those sorts of teams. So yeah, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult pill to swallow for London, this one, but they obviously did make the choice to go to Korea as well. So yeah, there is that as well. But very good from the Spitfire. Excelsior though, they grind it out, they get the win they need. If they'd gone 0-2 this week, that would have been a travesty for the New York Excelsior. So yeah, they did look better when Hangzhou came in as well, because I believe they started off with Nene and Sebiobi, and Spitfire were matching those DPS. I'm not going to lie. I think we saw Glister win a Tracer 1v1 against Sebiobi, which, yeah, I don't think I'd ever be saying that. But final 3 matches then. NA on the Sunday. Boston Uprising taking on Philadelphia Fusion. This was a 3-0 win for the Philadelphia Fusion. Again, Boston, they are improving, but the Philadelphia Fusion are a very big beast to be taking down. And we've seen Boston recently take some teams close, like the Paris Eternal and the Gladiators, but they are mid-table teams. They are not the Philadelphia Fusion. Philadelphia Fusion are not a mid-table team. They are higher than that. So I'm not entirely surprised by this result, but Boston shouldn't be upset about it either. I think Boston, there are steps being made by this Boston Uprising team. I think that's what I'll say right now. Then we had the Los Angeles Valiant taking on the Florida Mayhem. This was another stonker of a match. It really was. If you want DPS popping off, this match is crazy. We saw BQB popping off. We saw Yaki popping off. Shax was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And obviously KSP was fantastic as well. This was an amazing match, honestly. This ends up in a 3-1 for the Los Angeles Valiant, so that breaks that streak for the Florida Mayhem, even though I don't really count the loss against the Shock, but Mayhem had been on a really good streak, but this ends that. Maybe it's a bump down to earth for the Florida Mayhem, but I don't think it was one-sided. The first map was one-sided for the Valiant, and the last map was one-sided for the Valiant, but maps 2 and 3 were very close. There was a C9 from Florida on Hollywood, actually, I think, which was map 3. But yeah, they were close. And there were some real highlight reel plays in this one. But Valiant pulled through on this one, I think, because of Shax. Shax was just so darn good that, well, he couldn't be handled. He really couldn't be handled. Not even Yaki could really shut him down. So Shax was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And Valiant are good for their win. I can't deny that. But the last match was the Washington Justice versus the San Francisco Shock. And this, unfortunately, was maybe the most one-sided match of the entire weekend. I would say it was. I don't think Chengdu gave a good account of themselves in the first map against London Spitfire. But this match, this was a 3-0 for the Shock, and it was not close. Still a lot of work to do with the Washington Justice, and I'm starting to ask the question as to whether the Washington Justice might actually be the worst team in this league right now. They've got the parts. It's very, very annoying, but it's just a team without direction. It's just weird. It's weird. And I'm wondering whether Washington Justice might be writing this season off now and doing a similar thing to what the Florida Mayhem did. They started to move to a Korean roster, the Mayhem, midway through last season. It started to come together late last season, and this season it really has come together. I'm wondering whether Washington Justice are going to try and do that. But that rounds us out for the results this week. We will take a look at the standings just to round things out, and at the top we still have the Shanghai Dragons. And the Philadelphia Fusion are close behind in that second place. San Francisco Shock in third, New York Excelsior in fourth. Guangzhou Charger now up to fifth, with Florida Mayhem rounding out the top 6. Paris Eternal are just outside in that 7th place. Los Angeles Valiant up to 8th now on level terms with that Paris Eternal squad, just behind on differential. Valiant are really giving a good account of themselves compared to what we expected them to do. Is massive. Hangzhou Spark up to 9th, Atlanta down in 10th now, Seoul down in 11th. That is like borderline out of playoffs, out of play-ins right now. They've got Houston at their breathing down the necks. Gladiators, London even. Like, oof. Talking of the Devils, Houston in 12th, Gladiators down in 13th, which is worse than what we expected at the start of the season. Gladiators really have not found any consistency. Spitfire in 14th. Again, I think they are suffering from the APAC region blues. It's a very good region. I think if they were in an A, I think we might see them a little bit higher than that. But again, that's what comes, isn't it, really? Toronto Defiant in 15th, Dallas Fuel down in 16th, and to be quite honest, from their performance this weekend, they deserve that 16th place, and I wasn't saying that this time last week. Chengdu Hunters down in 17th, Vancouver in 18th, but got a good win this weekend. Washington Justice in 19th, and Boston Uprising in 20th, and I honestly am wondering whether Boston Uprising might well nick that 19th spot from Washington Justice at some point. So yeah, that rounds us up for this week, and next week we are back to no hero pools, which is going to be super interesting. How that might change things is it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you'd like to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.